You can pick up Rocky and Bull, SNES era, and platforming. For our next do, we turn to a very recent example, and this is a great game about not only the feel of movement, but also translating that into a fair and acceptable challenge, and that is Pizza Tower.
Vitra için geri dönüşüm sadece bir süreç değil. Daha yeşil bir yarına yolculuk. Sürdürülebilir yolculuğun öncüsü olarak Vitra, dünyanın ilk %100 geri dönüştürülmüş seramik lavabosunu sunar.
It's very obvious at this point that we're going to talk about a do of 2D platforming, then we have to mention Mario. And while I haven't had a chance to play Super Mario Wonder yet, we can certainly go with a very, I'm sure, unknown Mario game, and that is Super Mario World. When it comes to 2D design, Super Mario World by far probably has the most examples, research, and games based off of it imaginable. And that's if we count the massive number of Kaizo games, Kaizo hacks, Super Mario World inspired levels in Mario Maker 1 and 2. This is a game that has inspired and has been the foundation for so many examples of 2D platforming. And it's important to understand why. Super Mario World is by no means the most complicated 2D platformer or the hardest one that you're going to see in this video. But what it does provide is a very engageable and very approachable set of tools and challenges for any player. Now, Nintendo has always been a studio that tries to kind of gate or segment the super expert, ultra difficult aspects of their design from the more casual or core audience. And Super Mario World is yet another example of this. The normal route through this game is probably on the moderate challenging side, maybe moderate by today's standards. If you're going for all the star special world levels, they're going to provide you with some very difficult aspects. And again, for you watching this right now, when we say difficult, we are talking about early 90s standards. We are not mentioning anything about the, again, massive number of Kaizo inspired games that have been released. From a platforming point of view, Mario World, just like with any of the Mario games that came out after it, very responsive controls. This again is one of the most important aspects of platforming and game feel. When I push right, Mario immediately moves to the right. I press jump, Mario immediately jumps. It is as close to 1 to 1 between the player controls and Mario's reactions as you can possibly get. And so many developers over the years have messed with that formula. They'll make it feel like there's a slight delay or that the character doesn't exactly go where you want them to. And that kind of stuff can doom a game, especially when it is reflex driven regardless of its difficulty. Mario's level design is also another standout. This is a game that it does not get noticeably harder. And I've used this example before that some people will think that if level 1 is a 1 out of 10 in difficulty, level 15 should be a 15 out of 10 and a 40 out of 10, and we just keep raising the difficulty up because that's part of progression. That's not right. Mario, and by extension, Super Mario World's environmental and level design, there is a specific number of elements that the game will use to test the player. From the different kinds of moving blocks, enemies, buzzsaws, spin jumps, swimming, and all that. And what the developers do is that instead of making things noticeably difficult, they do more with their kind of toolkit of hazards. In the early parts of this game, the most challenging thing tool instead of making things noticeably difficult, they do more with their kind of toolkit of hazards. In the early parts of this game, the most challenging thing may be to jump over a pit, dodge a bullet bill. But by the end of the game, the developers are basically unleashing their entire set of obstacles at you. Ice physics, that pea balloon thing, dodging chucks with their baseballs, and many more. And while this is certainly harder, it's not harder simply because they're just making the game more difficult. Is that they're requiring you to make more use of or pay more attention to what the game is throwing at you. There are, of course, multiple routes, multiple secrets. And let's not, of course, forget about Mario's power-ups. Each power provides another way of tweaking how Mario behaves. Being small Mario is different than being big Mario. Using the regular jump is different than the spin jump. Cape physics, as everyone knows, Fire Flower, and all that. And it's this foundation that Nintendo said that has, again, led to such a popular use from the Kaizo community. Like I said, it is impossible at this point to tell just how far-reaching Super Mario World is to the 2D platformer genre, with so many developers who have put their own spin on this, using the likes of Kaizo hacks and Kaizo mods. I've watched a lot of them over the past 5 years now, and it is mind-boggling just how much variety they've gotten by either keeping things the same, adding in crazy new elements, the whole chocolate versus vanilla aspect, and again, all of this is built off of a platformer that came out, my goodness, what are we at? A little over 30 years ago. I feel really old now talking about this game. But again, this is one of the things I said in the first part of this video and why Nintendo's designs had this timelessness to them that we often don't see from other developers and other studios. And you want to be able to examine this game and see just how a responsive character with a very wide, diverse kind of environment level designs, and again, keeping the camera in its best possible spot for Mario, makes this game such a joy to play. And like I said, if any one of these elements is out of alignment, it is going to hurt the game. And that is a really good segue to this point. Yeah, we're getting the console wars reignited here, as our first don't is the Sonic series. Again, specifically focusing on the 2D Sonic games. And yeah, there's going to be probably a lot of comments about this one. Sonic, again, has been the closest for over a decade to Mario's dominance of 2D platforming. Again, for people who grew up in the 90s, the whole Sega does when Nintendo don't campaign. But while Sonic tried to position himself as the cooler, hipper 2D platformer, Mario eventually caught up, outlapped, and has basically been ahead of him ever since. And this is a good example of how the camera can come back to haunt you, specifically when it comes to giving the player information. Sonic has basically staked the entire design on the act of speed. Sonic runs fast. He goes through levels at blinding speeds compared to Mario. But where this fails is with this disconnect between the level design and the camera. Anyone who has ever touched a Sonic game in the past 30 years knows that running full speed ahead without, prior playing these levels previously is a recipe for you to die. Because the camera itself does not show enough of the level in order to give the player proper feedback. When you are running full speed, Sonic moves to about the 75% or 75% of the screen from the right hand side. At this position, you are not able to react on time to a spike, to a pit, to an enemy, whatever. And part of this again was done to give this illusion of speed. And there will be an example later on in this video of how you do speed far better than what Sonic ever did. And I think I may have given away for people if you know what game I'm going to be talking about. But the Sonic design has never squared this circle of making sure that the camera can properly keep up with Sonic's movement. And the level design itself has never managed to accommodate that either. If there were actual notifications, even just the act of using ring trails so the player know, hey, maybe you should jump here and not go fall into that lava pit or that spike enemy, that would have gone a long way. And as a very interesting point, we're even seeing Kaizo designers doing that now with having different colored coins to donate. No. And as a very interesting point, we're even seeing Kaizo designers doing that now in some of the newer Mario hacks. Well, they'll use different colored coins to know what the player is supposed to be doing. Is this a spin jump? If this is a normal jump, do you throw something here? And it's just ways of giving the player information so they have at least some idea as to what is coming up. Now, much has been talked about over years with Sonic's physics, and Sonic was perhaps the first 2D platformer to make use of a kind of simulated physics model, where it tried to simulate like realistic physics for how Sonic moved. Sonic didn't immediately go at full speed. He needed to build it up. There were slopes and angles. And this kind of stuff, again, like to the modern like 2D designer watching this, you may think that sounds boring. But this was very revolutionary for its time. And it is one area that Mario has never managed to quite go. But there's a point for that. Again, at the end of the day, your game feel is king. It does not matter the tech you use, does not matter if you are perfectly simulating the act of a hedgehog running 600 miles per hour down a busy street. If your game doesn't control right, if it's not properly conveying the information the player needs, all that tech might as well just be thrown in the trash because the players are not going to enjoy it.